they have those feelings too. When you realize you're not the only person, then that hopefully will help you just to know that every day you just got to make a decision. Like you just got to be hard, or like you say, be relentless. Because everybody doing it, you just don't hear about it.
Yo, what's going on, fam? This your boy K Noel. Hey, got another hot episode coming up. You don't want to miss this one. So you already know how we do. Let's hit that intro.
And yes, go 1, 2, 3. I got to be a beast and be like 1, 2, 3. I'm hot, watch me unleash and it go 1, 2, 3. When you know that you the best out, chest out. I'm saying I got now, forget the rest now. 1, 2, 3. I got to be a beast and be like 1, 2, 3. I'm hot, watch me unleash and it go 1, 2, 3. When you know that you the best out, chest out. I'm saying I got now, forget the rest now. I rap with the soul of Frankie Beverly, amazed on these graceful beats, forever heavenly. There'll never be none after me unless we talking let us see, but let us see. Begin on high notes like I'm lettucey. It's the real dreamer and artist formerly known as.
Yo, you already know how we do it. This your boy K Noel. Yo, what's going on, fam? Hey, listen, with this person that's about to bring up now. We've been trying to make this happen for a very long time. This is family, y'all. So y'all make sure y'all welcome family. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just going to go ahead and bring her up. This is my family. Y'all welcome MoeMinistry. What's going on, fam?
What's up? What's up?
How's everything going on your end?
Everything going good. I'm out here in Cali, so beautiful weather. It's a little hot, even though I have this sweatshirt on. I just chose to be comfortable today, but it's going good. But it's kind of hot out here.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. No doubt. No doubt. I got to come to Cali one day. I've always wanted to come to Cali.
You never been to Cali before?
Nah, not yet.
Oh man, yeah, you're gonna have to make that happen ASAP.
Yeah, it's coming. We're gonna speak that. It's coming.
For
So
sure.
So I normally most people ask, to tell a little bit about yourself, but I always like to throw this curveball. So I'm not gonna ask you about who you are now, but I want to ask you, who were you? Who was the person before the person we see today?
Oh, that is a curveball, but a good question. Um, well, I've always been an artist. I've always been a genuine person. I've always been um, a go-getter, but just a regular woman every day going to that 9 to 5, wanted to do something different. So I would say that's who I was before the person that's sitting before you, just a regular girl getting up every day, going to that 9 to 5, but wanting to do something different, or wanted to do more, I should say, than what I was doing.
So let me ask you this, because you mentioned that 9 to 5. What made you realize you wanted more?
Just realizing that being comfortable is never going to make me truly happy. I still work a 9 to 5 for those listening in, because there's nothing wrong with that. But just knowing that if you have more to offer the world and you want more from the world that you're living in, you at some point in your life, you're going to have to figure out how to balance the two and make it happen.
So how do you balance the two? Because I know firsthand the challenges from it.
Um, I know that word balance is kind of like, some people say it doesn't exist, but just for me personally, I would say that balancing the two means realizing that your job can become your investor. And once I decided to make my job my investor, meaning when I get paid, I take some money from my paycheck and put it into my passion and my purpose, then that's how you end up balancing it out. Then when I do that, I don't have to get up every day going to work having an attitude or feeling depressed or feeling like the world is moving on without me. But when I realize that my job is my investor and I'm blessed to have this job and to be able to take those funds and fund my passion and purpose, then I can live in harmony between the two.
I love that you said that, because I found that a lot of times, a lot of people, we become so purpose driven that we don't see all of the different avenues that we can have towards that's helping us towards our purpose. Because I have the full-time job. I have my side business alongside speaking and podcasting and stuff. And I look at that as that's what funds my purpose. And
Yeah.
it's all about changing your mindset to how you see everything. Because yeah, let's be real about it. None of, especially since 2020, I think it caused a lot of awakening for people when it came to purpose, because we saw that life is short. But we also have to,
Absolutely.
yeah, we also have to look at the different avenues that help us towards our purpose and helps us build towards that.
Yeah, I totally agree. And going back to what you said about, just being grateful to have the job, I always think about, what would somebody in my position with my talent and gifts do with the income that I have? Because you got people out there that got the grind, got the hustle, got the heart, got that dog in them, but they don't have no money. And it's people out there that probably would outwork you and I, simply because they have that heart and they want it that bad. And so that's a way that I would keep myself in check when I would do that self inventory and be like, what would somebody do with my time that I have? What would somebody do with the funds and the job that I have? And that would always kind of get me back in line to realize, listen, don't focus on what you don't have, or don't focus on where you're not yet, but focus on what you do have and then use what you have to get where you want to go. So it's really that mindset and that perspective.
Oh yeah, and that's definitely key to actually look at. It's easy to look at what I don't have, but sometimes, if we just start with nothing, God can use that and increase it. I
Yes.
I know that firsthand. So and just looking at your journey and where you have come, it's been amazing to me.
Thank you.
Oh yeah,
Sometimes I forget, because I forget to be like in the moment,
yeah,
or sometimes I forget to just kind of look back and see how far I've come. But I've been practicing that more, and that's been keeping me going because I'm a spiritual person. So I'm always like, God put me on. You know what I'm saying? Never
yeah.
forgetting that God put me on. But at the same time, I'm like, I got to give myself some credit, because the more and more I continue to put myself out there, the more I get further, because people can provide me opportunities, or I can put myself out there, but I can easily say no because I'm scared or I'm afraid. So I always try to, like, now look back and say, okay, dang, look where you were and look where you are now. It was you and God, because sometimes God will bless us and give us opportunities, but there's been times where we've let fear kind of like make us miss out on opportunities and money.
Yo, I know about how fear can talk you out of stuff.
Man, it could talk you out of doing the very thing that you want to do, the very thing that you prayed for. Fear will make you literally like talk yourself out of it. And that's crazy, but it's
Yeah, yeah,
it's real.
yeah. And I feel like when we face those adversities, for me, I'm learning that's reason for me to push even more. And
Yeah.
and I give it a live example of that, just being transparent. I just launched the first episode for this season this past week. I've been gone for literally a year and a half. And as soon as I launched that first episode, after that, man, I faced all kind of like mental warfare and all that kind of stuff that made me feel like, man, you should just quit. You should just give it up and all kind of stuff. And Friday night, I laid there and I really thought about it. I was like, man, you know what? At the end of the day, I'm glad to be experiencing this, because that's a sign for me even the more that this is what I need to be doing, and this is the purpose that I'm need to be walking on. This is the path that God has called me on. So I'm going to keep pushing even further, because now that I've grown so much, I look back on the journey and see what God has brought me from, not only what he has brought me from, but the strength that he has given me to walk on this path.
Absolutely. Yeah, and just think about like every time we do something and then we do have that moment where we're like, oh my God, I just did it. Like, oh my gosh, I'm in the game now. But then it's really not as bad as we think it is. It's like in our head, we're playing these, I don't know, we're playing these scenarios in our head and it's not even real. But then as you progress and you continue to do the episodes and you win the game and everything's working out, then you're like, wow, what if I would have just stopped? You would not become, like you said, the person that you are now if you would have just stopped and listened to yourself. It's always us against us. That's how I look at things,
Yeah.
you know. So I have this saying that I live by, and it says, before I convince the world, first I must convince myself. And that's what I live by, because half of the time it's always us in our own way, in our own mind. And the world doesn't really know. They can't really see what's going on in our mind. But if you can convince yourself, then you can convince the world. You just got to convince yourself.
Facts. You
And
speaking.
every time you get in the game, like you launch that episode, okay, then you probably lost a little sleep that first 24 hours. You're like, oh man, what am I doing? Here I go again. But then it's like, you know, joy comes in the morning and you snap out of it and you realize, like, okay, I'm in the game. And 9 times out of 10, I mean, we're going to make sure that we start working on what we're supposed to work on. And then next, you know, you're on the second episode. And it's just like, we just be tripping sometimes, you know?
Yeah, yeah. I got to do the air horns on that one.
For
you,
sure.
you preaching up in here. And speaking of that, I want to ask you this: what was a time that you had to conquer that fear?
To be honest with you, it's like I'm always conquering that fear. That's what people don't understand. It's like even when people see us doing things and you know we are inspiring each other, but it's like every time you do one thing, you prove one thing to yourself, but then when another opportunity comes or another idea comes, it's like you just keep leveling up. So it's like you got to keep convincing yourself. You got to keep overcoming your fear. So it's like to me, it's just ongoing. You know, it's like I never arrive. And it's I don't know, it's a funny thing because it's like sometimes you just want to get to where you want to get to and have that courage and you just want to do your thing. But the more you dream and the more you have goals, it's like you keep have these stepping stones that you got to keep building to. So I'm doing it every day that I get up and I'm going to work, but I'm making sure that I'm still doing what I'm supposed to do outside of work. I'm conquering that fear. Every day that opportunities are coming or ideas are coming in and I'm choosing to activate those things and act on them, I'm overcoming that fear. Um, every day that I'm choosing not to just throw it all away and just say, I'm gonna just get up and do a 9 to 5. Because sometimes I feel like that's easier just to get up every day and be like, I'm just gonna go to work. But then when you know you're not average, you're not gonna have no peace because you know you're not called to just get up and go to work every day. So every day that I clock into that 9 to 5 and still do what I'm supposed to do outside of that 9 to 5, I'm conquering my fear.
Facts, and I think sometimes people get it confused to why am I feeling this? And
Hmm.
it's that purpose that's pulling at you. It's that purpose. It's God calling you like this is your purpose and you need to start walking in it, start building those bricks, start building what you're called to build. And it's not easy. It takes a lot of sacrifice on that journey.
It does. But like I said, sometimes it feels like it's easier to just be average.
Yeah.
Just to be like, you know, and it's nothing wrong with the people who are not like, because there's people that are creative and some people are not creative, but everybody has gifts and purposes. But I feel
Yeah.
like as a creative, it's like I have so many gifts and things that I'm great at and good at. And it's like I can't just get up and just go to work every day at 9 to 5. Like I just would not be happy. I would not be serving God if I was doing that. So sometimes it's hard for me to know like, you know, what to get involved in. You know, just because I'm good at things doesn't mean I'm meant to do all of those things. But I'm constantly coming up with all these ideas, and I'm constantly, you know, just thinking of new ways to express myself through the arts.
Awesome. So you just mentioned arts, and I was just going to ask you this. So I know what you do, but tell everyone what you're doing now.
Well, I am your favorite poet, even for some of you guys that don't know it yet. I am your favorite poet. I am a spoken word artist. My background comes from hip hop. If you would have met me years ago, if you would have met me in my early years, I would have told you I was going to be this famous rap star. I loved hip hop since I was a little kid. But along the way on my journey, as I was using my gifts and finding my voice, I decided to plant my feet in poetry. So I am a spoken word artist. That is where I planted my feet here in the Bay Area, and I'm I've been doing it for a couple of years professionally, but I feel like I'm really just getting started because I just see the vision, and I'm just excited about what my life is going to look like as a spoken word artist. But that is who I am in a nutshell.
I just want to say, because you said you just getting started, but you blazing these streets, because every time I turn around, I see you somewhere else speaking, and I'm like, man, she killing it.
Thank you. And it feels good, but I know, yeah, I receive it. I am blazing these streets. You know what I'm saying? I receive that. But it's like during the pandemic, I found like that's when I found my voice. And so I just feel like I'm still growing. You know what I'm saying? I'm still establishing myself. I'm still introducing myself to the world and to my community. So I'm just excited about feeling like I'm just getting warmed up. Maybe I should say that. That's how I feel. I'm just getting warmed up.
So, what was the journey like, and what did you have to do to actually learn your voice?
Really, it was the pandemic, right? Because during the pandemic, we were all forced to figure out what we was gonna do with ourselves. Was we gonna just stay in the house? Was we just gonna cry about not being able to go out and do things? Everybody was forced online. I had a lot more time on my hands, even though I was still working. So during the pandemic, I just was figuring out how to like maneuver, you know what I'm saying, and how to pivot. And I just started writing more. And I decided to fully immerse myself in the craft of poetry. So I started doing online open mics. And I just started making sure to be in those crowds and in the company of other poets. And so I just started off being a sponge, and I would pinpoint certain people's styles that I liked and where which style felt more like mine. And that's just how I started just like finding my voice, just practicing, signing up for these online open mics. And then eventually, once things started to settle and we were able to like go back outside, I decided to fully immerse myself in the craft of poetry. Started going to the local open mics and just testing, my material out, but then also just studying the people that I really liked. And then eventually, like, I realized the things that I wanted to talk about, and I just kept putting myself out there. And I feel like just through the pandemic, so many things that was happening, I decided to start writing about it. And I finally like found my voice. And what I mean by that is like I realized that it's more than just poetry. Like if you a poet or a spoken word artist, like you an activist too. You're a motivational speaker. You're all of those things. And now I'm feeling more comfortable in the things that I want to talk about and the things that need to be talked about.
That, and I do believe you definitely have to be a study of your craft.
For sure.
And I know for me, two of the people that I study is Inky Johnson and Dr. Darius Daniels. Those,
Oh yeah, I'm
those
familiar about them.
yeah, those two are two that I definitely study, especially Ink, because Ink is an introvert like myself, but
Mm,
he's a different person when he get on the stage. I spoke somewhere yesterday, and they was like, You're so humble, you're so meek." But when I got on that stage, it was like that lion unleashed.
yeah,
So
yeah, I know what you mean.
yeah, no doubt. So what was it like that first moment when you physically got on the stage? What was that like for you?
I can't remember like the exact moment because I've been like doing this. I've been on a roll like with these open mics. But one thing I will say is there were so many things going through my mind, but at the same time, I felt like I was at home. So if you can think about having butterflies and at the same time just feeling like you just feel at home at the same time, it's like those two feelings combined. And that's how I feel actually, fast forward years later, that's how I just feel like every time. There's always a little bit of butterflies, but at the same time, once I start speaking those words out of my mouth with the power and with the delivery, it's like I just feel like I'm at home.
Awesome. What would you say to those who say, "Mo, I'm trying, but feel like I keep failing. I feel like I can't get past like this particular hump in my life. So maybe I feel like it just isn't meant to be. What would you say to them?
I would definitely say that, self-awareness is key, because the thing is, we can never get away from fear, doubt, all of those emotions, the whole thing about talking yourself out of doing things. That stuff will never go away. I don't care what nobody says. But the more that you know yourself, the more that you're self-aware, meaning you know your strengths and your weaknesses, strengthening your strengths and strengthening your weaknesses, then it'll become easier when you realize you're not the only person that's having those thoughts. The person that you're looking up to, the Inky Johnsons and the Darius Daniels and the ETs, they have those feelings too. When you realize you're not the only person, then that hopefully will help you, just to know that every day you just got to make a decision. Like, you just got to be hard, or like you say, be relentless, because everybody doing it, you just don't hear about it.
Yeah, and I definitely agree with that. And I think we sometimes in our mind we feel like we're isolated. We feel like that we're the
Yeah,
only ones going through this, but you're not. Just like you said, they just don't talk about it. But it's there. It's there and it's present. Uh just
absolutely.
just like the scripture says, evil is always present. So
Hmm.
that opposition is gonna always be there, present, trying to intimidate us out of doing what we're supposed to do. I think about Goliath.
Hmm.
Goliath was there to try to intimidate all of Israel, try to make them stand down, make them back up. But then you have to have man, okay. David had that relentless mindset. So when
Yeah.
you have that relentless mindset, you looking at like, who is this Philistine that defies our God? Who is this Philistine that's trying to defy my purpose? Who is this Philistine that is trying to cause me to back down? But when you have that David mindset, yo, bruh, I'm coming with 5 smooth stones, and you're not gonna stop me. Because I know who's on my side, I know who's behind me, I know who's in front of me, and not only that, I know who's in me. So it's nothing that you can do to stop
Yeah.
me from conquering my purpose. And when we start taking on that different mindset and understanding that greater is he that's in me, then nothing else can stop me. No fear, no self-doubt, no the doubters that's around me, they can't stop you. Because all of that is going to be present. Evil is always going to be present, no matter what you're doing. It's always going to be there, and it's easy to quit. But you have to look at it, because either way, even when you quit, evil is still going to be present. It's going to be continuously there to keep you down. Look at you. I told you weren't going to be good at it. I told you weren't going to do this. Now look at you. You sitting here and you ain't doing nothing, and it's still there. So I'd rather keep on moving and continuously fighting, and knowing that evil is going to be talking. You can talk your talk, but I'm going to walk it.
Period. And to speak on David too, so David knew the God that he served, but David knew who he was. So you mentioned about him having the 5 stones, right?
Yeah.
Have you ever thought about, he probably practiced too? He probably was practicing before, way before he even got into that whole situation. So
Yeah.
self-awareness, right?
Yeah.
Self-awareness, knowing who you are, knowing your strengths no matter what comes your way, and then also practicing, you know what I'm saying? That way you can convince yourself. If you're not convinced, the world not going to be convinced.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's more obvious when you're not convincing, the world knows. But if you can convince yourself, you can convince the world. If you know who you are, if you have weaknesses, then don't spend too much time on the weaknesses, but spend some time on strengthening those weaknesses, or making peace with them, and just work on strengthening your strength,
Facts.
because you can't stay there.
Facts. You speaking facts, yo. So check this out.
Yeah.
We're gonna transition for a second, because in the form that I gave you, I asked you for your favorite speakers. So
Yeah.
I did a little research, and I picked out one of your favorite speakers. So what we're gonna do now, I'm gonna play a clip from one of your favorite speakers, and I call this segment "Let's Talk About It." So
Okay.
I'm gonna play the clip, and then we're gonna break it down. We're gonna talk about it. So Let's go
Let's
ahead and
go.
make that transition.
I allowed a speed bump in this relationship to become a stop sign. It wasn't a stop sign to begin with. It was a speed bump. It was a hiccup. It was a moment of discovery. It was a moment of discord. It was a moment of disruption. And I allowed what was supposed to only be a speed bump to turn into a stop sign. Failure says so many things. Number one, failure says I took a leap. So first, congratulate yourself. We tend to only focus on what didn't work. So in my company, we always fell forward.
That is today's Let's Talk About It. So I want to let you hit that first.
Man, well, first of all, okay, Lisa Nichols. Oh my gosh. When you told me to make that list, it was hard because I have more, but I
Yeah.
really wanted to make sure I took the top five. And Lisa Nichols, just overall, she is one of like the foundational people who helped me to start like pivoting,
Yeah.
as a speaker, and just seeing not just this woman, but this Black woman who she's not afraid to be herself. She's not worried about what you think about how she looks or how she talks, but when she gets on that stage, period, you're gonna feel her presence. So she had a lot to do with me actually finding my voice. So I'm so grateful, and I feel like it was so divine that you chose her out of those people that I sent you. But just to touch on what she was saying about the speed bump, and about failing your way to success, I can identify with that because sometimes we do stay in these dark places for far too long. We all have sometimes that dark cloud that kind of tries to come upon us. I can say that dark cloud is like your own doubt. But you're not supposed to stay there for that long. She talked about failing your way to success. So a lot of people, I have to podcast, right? The Get Over Yourself podcast. And I don't do the podcast anymore. And a lot of people ask me about that. Will I have the podcast again one day? I probably will. But when I look at that podcast, although it didn't last for more than a year and a half, I don't look at that as a failure. I'm proud of myself because I actually put my best foot forward. I did that podcast. I overcame my fear, my doubt, and people still ask me about it. So it lets me know that like I did something that was amazing. And so I totally agree with what she said about failing forward. Doesn't mean that you fail, but it means that you're continuing to just stretch yourself and get out of your own way.
Yeah, I was going to try not to ask about the podcast.
I'm not even tripping.
But you know what though? I'll say this though. And this is a lesson that I had to learn on the journey because when I first started my podcast, it was called The Pursuit of Passion.
I
And
remember.
yeah, in The Pursuit of Passion, though it was good, but it didn't fit me. And Relentless Conversations, because I am the relentless motivator, it fits me. It fits who I am. Even being the relentless motivator, having that title as relentless, that fits me. And I feel that is very important when it comes to everything you're doing. So yeah, it was a lesson for you. And I feel like whenever you come back with the podcast, it's going to be even better because you're going to have so many more fresh ideas because now you have come into yourself. So your
Yes.
podcast it's gonna fit to who you are. That's very important. That's even like with my intro, I asked my homeboy could I use his music for my intro because it fitted me because it's that fire. Even
Yeah.
everything I put everything into mine into significant consideration. The fire, my podcast is giving you that fire that you need. So that's where the fire comes up from. It's not just there just to look good. It's significance to that. Even
I feel it.
the video, the call to action video I have just for my personal brand, Noel, it's electricity. Why is it electricity? Because I'm giving you that electricity that you need. I put symbolisms into everything. That's one thing I love. I learned it in
I like that.
English 1101. Symbolisms, and I fell in love with symbolisms ever since. But so I really do feel once you come back, it's gonna be fire.
But check this out. I may come back, I may not, right? So It's all good because, and I smile saying this because the fact that I even had that podcast, like that made me who I am today.
Yeah.
Because I was stepping out of my own way. I still, get over yourself is still my message. I still have the shirts, I have the books. It is my motivational message, but I shifted from being a motivational speaker to saying I really want to do this poetry. And yes, there were other things going on in life. I still got to go to work. I'm a wife. I'm a mom. I'm trying to balance the 9 to 5. So it was a little bit of that had to do with it too. But when I look at it, I made the right decision to just say, you know what, I'm gonna go ahead and pivot, right? Even if things weren't done perfectly, but people still asking me about the podcast. People still telling me they missed the podcast. But the moral of the story for me is that I did something super dope, and I was a one woman show behind that, making it happen and doing my thing. And it's like it's just something that I can look back and be like, man, if you could do that, you could do anything. So I may have the podcast one day or I may not, but I'm good with that. I'm still gonna be pushing for people to get out their own way because that's what I live by.
Look, whether you do or not, you still inspiring. You still pushing. You giving the push. Either
Yeah,
ways. So I love it, and just to see how your message has grown, and I feel that in itself is important. And sometimes life takes us down a journey for our message to grow.
absolutely. Yeah, and I love that you knew me before now. Like, you know what I'm saying? That's what I love about just the social media world. When you use it correctly, you build relationship with people like we never met in person,
Right.
but we keep a healthy relationship online and supporting each other, and it's like we feel like we've been knowing each other. So I feel good when I hear you say like you've seen my message grow. Because for everybody listening, he not just saying that, like, no,
Yeah.
you've seen me grow, and so a lot of the things that I'm saying is like you saw it, you know what I'm saying, as you watched and as you encouraged me and as you supported me, and I appreciate that. But yeah, it's like it was just a season of my life where I was getting out of my own way. I had a whole podcast for a year and a half. Like I feel like I didn't fail. I feel like, man, like that was a great accomplishment. You know what I'm saying? And I'm still pushing the message. It's just like I'm pushing it different. I'm really on this poetry so tough. This is who I am. This fits me right now. And some people can't understand that. Even the people that believe in you and that be like, well, when you coming, when you bringing it back, or why'd you stop doing that, or you should do that again. But it's like this is like you said, this fits me where I am right now, and I'm not gonna let nothing like deter me. So
Yeah.
even though I'm great at things and I can probably pick up and do a podcast and start it tomorrow, it's like, do I want to be super busy doing that? Do I want to be super busy trying to do this, that, and the third? Because, just because you're moving don't mean you're being productive.
Facts.
You know what I'm saying? And I'm getting older too. So it's like, I don't feel like being busy doing this, that, and the third. I'd rather do one or two things that I could be good at, plant my feet and be good. So that's just where I am right now.
Yeah, and people may not understand it, but one thing about a
Yeah.
podcast is it's a lot of work.
Yes. People don't understand.
Yeah. So that's that's what I told before we started, that this new platform that I'm using now is so much easier for my editing, because
Yeah.
I had to find something. If I was going to continue to do this, I had to find something that was going to be made easier for me to use, because all of that editing and all that kind of stuff, it was cool, but some got to give.
Yeah, and it's like the podcast world, it's fun, it's cool, but a lot of people don't understand what it takes behind the scenes. Um, and it's just like I'm the type of person, if I'm gonna do something, I'm gonna give it my all. I'm going to set aside time. I'm gonna be planning. So I have to make sure that I'm like spending my time wisely because I don't want to start something just to do it just because it sounds good and then I end up quitting for the wrong reason. So it's like I'm chilling where I am right now. I'm cool and I'm being consistent where I am, and it feels good to be consistent in something.
Yeah, no doubt. And I'll say this: the one significant thing that I see, you took the step out of the boat. And the first
Mm,
step was some years ago when we first met. You was taking those steps out of the boat. And the difference is between you and Peter. Peter took his eyes off of Jesus. So he took his
mm,
eyes off and he started to sink. Not saying you didn't have any moments where you probably, like Lisa was saying, you fell forward or something, but you kept
Mm-hmm.
going. And that's where I think people don't realize it's just a matter of stepping out of the boat and keep going. Yeah, we're going to trip up sometimes. We're going to have our moments. We're going to have your moments where you feel like giving up too. But the
Yeah.
key thing is you keep going forward. And if you keep going forward, sometimes you'll look back and be like, man, I didn't realize I was that far away from the boat now. Like,
Yes.
yeah, so I applaud you for that.
Thank you. And I love that you are, talking about God, you know what I'm saying? Because it's just like we can't forget that piece. I mean, no matter who's listening and where they are on their spiritual journey, but it's just like you can't leave that part out because God really be coming through, or as they say, God be been in the block.
Yeah,
God be been in the block for us, you know what
yeah.
I'm saying? So many times in so many ways. And, it's just, I got these new shirts that I made that they say, God put me on, I will not let him down. And that's how I feel like when I look back at the journey, I'm like, God put me on. So I'm definitely not about to let God down.
Oh yeah, no doubt. And 2023 was a significant year for me because that was the year, and I feel like that was my year of proving the relentless message. Like, are you really relentless? Is this really who you are or who you want to be? And the challenges I faced in that year, it changed my message of what relentless is. And not only that, it reestablished me with God too. Because that was like a missing key piece, was my relationship with God. It kind of fell off. And I was building back in the end of 2022, building back that relationship, but life happened in 2023 and it catapulted it. So,
Okay.
I look back now and I embrace my trials and tribulations. Like, come with it now, because that's a sign of growth, because growth doesn't feel good. It's uncomfortable.
Whew, it's so uncomfortable. But you got to go through it to get what you want. It's like I always say, like, okay, sometimes like we'll start stuff, and then if it gets too hard, like we'll be like, okay, I'm gonna take a break, I'm gonna pivot, I'm gonna do this. But no matter what, you still got to go through that same door.
Yeah.
The same door that means you got to work for what you want. The same door that means you got to get uncomfortable. So it's like if you picture three doors in front of you, like A, B, C, you go through door A, you like, okay, I'm gonna go through there, and then you like, I don't really like this. Let me start over. What you really don't know is when you go through door B and C, it's the same thing waiting for you. You gotta be relentless. You can't be lazy. You gotta work for what you want. So you could keep starting and stopping, pivoting, trying this, trying that, but again, it goes back to just that self awareness and what I'm saying, building yourself, convincing yourself before you convince the world, because it ain't nowhere to get around it. And then you'll look up and be probably 60 years old trying to still start something over. It's like, nah, you got to get out your own way.
Yeah. And that's why, part of my message is leave no days left behind, because no matter what's happening, sometimes in some moments you're just taking one step at a time.
Yeah,
And that's cool because you're still moving. You're not leaving that day left behind. Even if it's something small, you're still moving. And I think that is important. That is key. So,
absolutely. You got to keep moving, but again, like, okay, so Jim Rohn is like one of my favorite people, but I only have five people you let me put on the list. But like, I'm always quoting people like Jim Rohn, and because like motivational speaking was always my thing too. But it's like he's just saying, don't mistake movement for progress. You know
yeah,
what I'm saying? So keep moving, but make sure you're moving in the right direction. But definitely keep moving.
facts, big facts. So,
Yeah.
as we're transitioning to the end, I want you to speak life into the people. The floor is yours. Just shoot at it. Whether you want to spit some poetry, however you want to do it, I'm just gonna let you have
For
that.
sure. For sure. To everybody listening, man, I know this sounds cliche when people say if I could do it, you could do it too. But listen, I'm telling you, it's real because one thing for sure, you know what I'm saying? We're all human. So, like in the words of Lisa Nichols, she says, you know what? Don't call me extraordinary to take yourself off the hook. I'm just an ordinary person who chose to every day keep putting my best foot forward. So before you convince the world, first you gotta convince yourself. So if you're in a situation right now where you're stepping out of your comfort zone or you have these ideas, and you ready to walk in your purpose, before you start getting too deep in the game, make sure that you work on yourself first. But while you're working on yourself, you can keep moving and you can get out there and you can fail as long as you're failing forward. But before you convince the world, first you gotta convince yourself. And that's my message. Before you convince yourself, before you convince the world, first you got to convince yourself. I'm so big on just self development and being self aware because the more we know ourselves, the more we can go out there in this big world and we can conquer it one thing at a time.
Straight bars. So where can everybody find you? Tell us a little bit about some of the products you have, just the whole nine.
Absolutely. You can definitely find me on, I'm mostly on Instagram and sometimes on Facebook, but you can find me on Instagram at I am Monique McCoy. My community knows me affectionately as MoeMinistry. I do have a website, which is www.iammoniquemccoy. I also have an online boutique called the Poets Vault Apparel. I make all kinds of dope t-shirts and all these accessories for poets and lovers of the art, and that is www.enterthepoetsvault.com. Also on Instagram at the Poets Vault Apparel. I just wrote a poetry book that dropped the month of National Poetry Month. It's called Poetry's Daughter, and you can purchase that online. If you are a lover of poetry or you're someone who's looking to get into poetry, I guarantee you that that book, Poetry's Daughter, will definitely be an inspiration to you.
Let's go. Make sure y'all get the merch. Make sure y'all get the book. Follow her on social media. You see that right there, don't you?
Yeah, this is an actual prayer too. It says, "Dear God, all I want to do is write poetry, dress fly, get paid, and be happy. Amen." And that is my prayer that I put on this sweatshirt, and God is doing just that.
Let's go. So y'all see it. It's a vibe, man. Y'all make sure.
For
I
sure.
need y'all to do that for me, my community, my people. I need y'all to make sure y'all cop her book, get the merch, do the whole nine. All right.
Thank you.
Oh yeah. So I appreciate you for being on the podcast. We finally made it happen after talking about it for a long time.
Yep.
So I just want you to know I appreciate it. I appreciate the time. I appreciate the encouragement. What you're doing is greatly appreciated, for real.
Likewise, for sure. And I wish you nothing but success. Thank you for always supporting me, and let's continue to support each other.
Yeah, no doubt. You already know. And as for all of my listeners, my people that's watching, whatever time of the day it is, whether it's morning, noon, day, or night, you already know how we do it. You leave no days left behind. Make the best of each day. And most importantly, be relentless. I'm Noel, your relentless motivator, and we are out.
Hey, aren't you glad? I'm bringing it back. My chains in the past. Got my confidence back. I ain't living in land. That ain't living like that. Hey, aren't you glad?